welcome to the CTF Underground Podcast, CTF all the time. Now your host, my boy, from the hood, Albert, and Money Angelou. Let's go. Goal, 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 goal. Hola y bienvenido al Barca Subterráneo. They capture the flag. Todo CTF todo el tiempo. Démosle la bienvenida a sus anfitriones, Alberto y Angelos.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of CTF Underground. My name's Alb, and hosting with me once again, we got Kelby. How's it going, brother?
Good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to go through Week 3 of Season 2 of the CTF Draft League. We're going to go over the matches, things that happened. We're going to go through the schedule for Week 4, which is going to include the playoffs. And we're going to talk about the standings. We don't have a whole lot to talk about with this episode because the games were pretty quick. It didn't last very long, but we'll do our best to break them down for you guys. And if you missed them, hopefully you got a good understanding of what happened after you listened to this podcast. So with that, guys, we're going to get into it. Kelby, you take us through what happened yesterday, Sunday, in Week 3.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get started with the game of the century, right? I hyped this one up last week. I'm so glad I did. This is Pizza Rats versus Leedies. This is Saw versus Plumber Albert. We're all excited to see it. Unfortunately, Saw's not even online for it, so maybe he just called it the day after. But this looked like it was going to be, as predicted, A7 versus F4. But quickly into the start of this game, we realized this is going to be a 10-man game. And some people who were in spec were saying, oh, are they doing it intentionally? But those of us kind of watching the hills, which are usually the last flags grabbed due to distance, realized this was not intentional. Leedies did have folks going to the hills, but too little too late. In this case, I think they kind of got shocked when they saw the victory timer go off. Maybe their comms weren't on because based on where they started at A3, it seemed like they weren't quite ready for that. But I want to talk about one person in particular who should have gotten the flag on the bottom hill. And this is ZMN. So ZMN, we've talked to him, stalwart of the league. This guy knows how to play and everything. I don't know if he had a brain lapse or they had some other plans, but I happened to be watching this guy who started the game as an infiltrator, and he spawned kind of in the middle of the Titan side of the map. When you spawn there on the right side of this picture you're looking at, you go straight down to the hill and you call it, I've got bottom hill. If you go from there as an infil or a JT on a pack, anything that's moving quickly, you're going to get there regardless of the spawn on collective side. You're going to beat collective to it. He did not go to the bottom, and then it ended up that Colossal, one of the infantries, got on a late flight pack and tried to get there. But because Jay was on a drop pack as a JT coming from the bottom spawn on collective side, he actually got there first. So long story short, ZMN choked on that one. I haven't talked to him to say, hey man, why'd you do this? But I was watching, that's what happened. That's how it got started. Game does get into a 10-man scenario at A7, which has become one of my favorite things to talk about all season. And actually, at the beginning for Pizza Rats, it's a bit of a scatter race, if you will. They've got 4 or 5 people holding flags for the first few seconds. Even after the first few drop, you've still got 2 or 3 people holding flags. You don't have your subs in. Your squad leader's not subbed out. Just pure chaos for the first 60 seconds of that. Things are looking good enough where they've lost some turrets, but built enough bounce back at the top of A6 to get out of the flag room and push them. When Bonds, and shout out to Dez who saw this and said it in spec, had set a blink. Now, I'm going to speak for Albert in this case. I don't think anyone on Pizza Rats or their spec info squad saw this. So Bonds did successfully catch him off guard. He blinks with, a few seconds left. They have a free shot to the flag room with about 8 people instantly attaching. And for a second, it's like, oh, they're going to turn this around and, they can take over the flag room. This becomes chaos. That's not exactly what happened. I thought Pizza Rats did a good job of staying calm, throw some explosives in the flag room, understanding that all those folks attaching are either low energy or down an energizer. So within, 10 seconds, the flag room's clear it out. It's a good abort and everything, but the team attaching cannot stabilize that. They're at a very bad energy disadvantage, and the other team's turning around full energy, ready to go. So they get pushed out all the way out on a reset. Luckily, the SL or someone's inbound at A3, so the delay's not too long. But I know Pizza Rats had practiced their 10-man defense at A7. They were ready. They had the 2 heavies in, both using MML. Albert, even back in his Newfie days, has preached how important EB is coming down a hallway. And once you get that thick portion of A7 where you're dominating the middle hallway, it's very hard to push through. And that's what we saw in kind of the last-ditch efforts from Leedies to get up there. I did catch up with Mecca after the game. I think this was a 4 or 5 minute game. Albert, correct that. But all Mecca had to say as far as winning captain comments, we had great spawns and we were shocked we got all 5. And that's what it looked like from spec too, right? I mentioned some people thought, oh, they're doing it intentionally. It's the redemption strategy against Phoenix Down where they're missing some of their most important players. And in this case, we're talking about Sov, who kind of unofficial co-captain of the squad, shot calling for defense a lot, wasn't there last night. Maybe they're going all in. That is not what happened. It was just a miss flag at the beginning by ZMN, maybe others, but ZMN was the one I spotted when the game started. That resulted in a bit of panic. So, Albert, you played in that game. You can talk a little bit about what it was like, how shocked you guys were to suddenly have all the flags, and even more importantly, how shocked were you when the medic blinked behind you for that abort?
Yeah, so like you said, it was a 4-minute game. We practiced twice last week for probably 3 hours each practice, and then we practiced 2-hour pregame. Like you said, we went through like the 10-man, what to do, what everyone should be doing, the roles. Luckily, we did that because it went 10-man right away. Like you said, we talked after, and that's not what their plan was. As soon as I heard the victory timer go off, I was like, shit, everyone get home right now because they're 10-manning us. So right away, I thought it was, their plan to do that, and it wasn't after all. Like, we just outflagged them. So, luck of the draw, went to 10-man. We were literally just after talking about it, so it was still fresh for everybody on what to do. Not gonna lie, I was a little bit panicked. That's my third game leading since I've been back in like an actual competitive view. Probably, like you said, the biggest match for us that season because it did happen to determine a lot of things going into week 4 for playoffs. So I wanted to win that game. So I was like, shit, they don't have Sov. These guys are coming to 10-man us immediately. Everyone just get in their spot. We got 5 guys at that time holding flags, and then 5 people out, and 2 of those were supports. So actually 3 of them were supports, so we still had an SL in, which I didn't pick up until later in the 10-man. So, yeah, it was kind of a scramble. Got it under control real quick. There wasn't like a whole lot of panic. Just talked everybody through it, and then they got their abort. We pushed them out, and then Bonds blinked, which really caught me off guard. Luckily, I was like towards the top of the base when it happened, so I got to see like the flashing of people attaching, and our team called it out pretty quick, and just tried to keep everyone calm. So like what I did as an infill to control that situation was I told my team, all right, everyone get up here, throw your grenades into the flag room. I'm going to hold them in the flag room, so I like ran in as an infill to the top like quarter section of the base, and I just repped them back towards that back wall. And then everyone just threw their grenades. They dodged really fast. We got control of it again. And then, like you said, it's just EB down the hallway. Everyone get to the bottom. Make it as hard for them to get back up as possible and burn as much time as possible as we can down at that bottom section so that, makes it harder for them to get in the board. Shout out to Bonds, though, man. That blink caught us off guard. It could have went either way. Like, you don't know what's going to happen at that point. They blinked. They had time to run from middle of that top hallway to the flag room. They were probably pretty close to full energy by the time they got in the hallway, or in the flag room, sorry, and got the flag. So we recovered really quickly. So, it was good showing by our team, and, good job Bonds for doing that. We didn't have spec info on it, and I've harped on how important spec info is, and like said, for the people in spec who aren't playing, how important your role is and how important you are to your team. That right there, if we had spec info on that, could have saved us, and luckily they didn't win because of it, but they very well could have. So, try to keep spec info on these classes that can blink, your engineer, medic, squad leader, infills. I know it's hard because there's, 5 potentially of them in the game at once, but do your best to pay attention to what's going on to help your team in those situations so that, a deep blink like that doesn't happen. And I know, like, Decker and those guys, X5, they're real keen on doing it. So, if you're playing these people, try to be mindful of it. There could potentially be a blink. We did not see it coming at all. It completely caught us off guard, but, we were able to keep it cool, recover, and push back out. It was kind of disappointment that it happened that way. Like, I was expecting a good match. I wanted a good match. I wanted Sov to be there. I've told numerous amount of people, even week 1 playing Axie, I asked him if Breakdance was going to be there because I didn't want to beat him or play him when his team wasn't at full potential. I'm real competitive, so I want to win when everybody's there. Like, I don't want cop-outs or easy victories. Like, I want to beat people where there's no excuses, and that's what it is about for me. So it sucks that Sov wasn't there, but there is potential to play them again in the finals, but they have to get through another strong team to get there, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, that's basically how it went for me and my team in that situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, congrats to Pizza Rats. They showed up and did what they needed to do. But also, shout out to Bonds for something kind of a big ball play like that as the captain of the squad. Where, hey, I'm the medic. Untraditionally, I'm going to invest a lot of my energy into a blink, and we're going to try to catch them by surprise. Because if they had pulled that out, we talk about you were able to corral them into the flag room, which is a strategy we've been over before, and just get nades going. But if they pull that out, a few reps go the other way and they escape with flags, that is the play of the draft league to have a medic blink clear a base on 10 man. That would have been awesome.
It would have.
So I'm sure you're glad it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But as someone that likes the chaos and everything, good try, Bonds. Genuinely, I like to see that. So moving on to the next game, we had Bro versus Scissors in the middle of the match or the middle of the night, and this was A7 versus F4. Actually, Bruh eventually overwhelmed the initial 5v5 with a traditional power offense. They did have a new lineup because Flo came back. So Flo came in. He was playing Go Heavy for most of this game, from what I saw, attacking into F4 to begin the game. That was honestly just too much pressure for Scissors at some point, where they did buckle and they lost too many turrets. They're pushed into the flag room. Eventually, that went down. They got flags out. So we go to our first 10 man. 10 man at A7, we talk about this every week, coincidentally, because sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. This one kind of failed at the beginning. So too much pressure on the 10 man, too much control at the top, where the defending team's not able to push out. So in this case, Bruh defending at A6, not able to push out to that critical choke. Could not get enough space in the base to delay the victory timer. And eventually it's just flag room chaos. You have a lot of people deep in the flag room. There's nades going, sentries going red. You don't notice. The medic's either dying or losing energy. They got some flags out. And that's not the first time we've seen it in one of these, bra games, if you will. Because when they played Leadies the first time, it was kind of opposite foot, where they were on 10 man 0. They got flags out and reset to 5v5. So Karma came back. It did happen to them. This was interesting though. Scissors, I don't know if they meant to do it or it was kind of just a panic. Hey, we only have so much time. Instead of going back to F4, where they can play to what I think is their strength in Tyrael's D heavy, they went to D6 and they set up a base in D6. Tyrael switched to play DM, which I thought was fine. He played a strong DM and everything, but it was more of the same as time went on. The offense attacking D6 at that point in the game was just overwhelming them gradually. There weren't enough like blocker sentries being put up due to space and time by the engineer. And once you're down without blockers and playing against power offense, you're just taking way too much damage for every push. And that's what happened in D6. But the other time, or the other side of this game, occurred at A7 and 5 versus 5. And unfortunately for Axis and these guys, it was the same story we talked about last week. Their squad leader was out of position. He was getting cleared. He was taking damage he didn't need to, just trying to do too much and overthinking it. And this time we're talking about Dark Prince, who's played the game forever. So last week we kind of harped on Doris and he's kind of playing crazy, keeps getting cleared. We saw the same thing, but a different style of it this week, where the squad leader's just walking up and getting cleared to an infantry. Not even flanked by Posty, the opposing medic, but like Scarface is walking straight into DP and just immediately killing him. DP is getting stuck on walls. He's not taking proper escape path. I'm sure he's saying, I need help attach, but you've got to give yourself more time. You've got to play more passive than that. Build as much distance as possible when you see that threat approaching. And unfortunately for this Axie offense, I was so high on all season, they never got that stabilized. And, we'll go back to attendance at some point, but I thought that was the story of this game, just like I thought Doris was the story of the previous one. One more thing that kind of happened this game, somewhat controversial, was Mites did not play. I don't know all the decision making behind that. We had touched on it a little bit when we talked to Axie in the one-on-one podcast recently, but Mites was in spec for this game. He was not in. That was a disappointment because, again, I'd like seeing the Mites chompy Axie offense. Didn't get to see it. Ultimately, when D6 went down, we go back to 10 man. They either intentionally or unintentionally end up with 3 infuls, much to Tyrael's disappointment. And these guys are able to hold the flag room for those last 10 seconds and win the game. So congrats to Bruh. I'm sorry the season went that way for Scissors. I was really cheering for your squad, especially that offense most of the season. But just some comments from the winning captain from this one, Posty. He mentioned that Spec and Foe was huge this game. They really harped on their 10-man comms throughout the week and narrowed it down to 2 people talking through 10-man. And then just getting back to basics and the discipline helped get them the W. So that's how I saw the game, Albert. I think you were there. Anything you want to add or contest with?
Yeah, I thought for, like you said, attendance issues with Scissors, I thought that they played a really good game still. Their offense did really good. They had, Bruh's rets down immediately, forced them to have flag room rets. I think once that happened is when things started to fall apart. I just don't think that they knew what to do at that point. Like, I think the leadership might have lacked a little bit there on that offense. Numerous times I've seen their infantry's literally just run into the flag room and in such a tight spot with 2 MGs crossfire, and like they were getting melted. They didn't even make it to the first sentry, the blocker.
Yeah.
In that situation, like what I would do is just peek the flag room and throw your grenades in there, bounce them off the walls, like whatever. As the infantry's come out, you drain them, you kill them, you try to hold them in there, but you just don't just run into a full room of turrets. That's never going to work for you. And as we've seen, even with a real strong offense, it wasn't going to hold up. They weren't going to get ahead that way. And it's unfortunate that, their SL got cleared a lot, so they didn't get the momentum that they needed to, sustain that pressure. But I thought that they played really good. I do think that in the end, though, the better team won. I think that when you look at both these teams and, the skill that's on both of these teams, and at the time, I just feel like Bra was the better team. I think their offense was stronger, and I think that they just had it, from the get-go. I do want to, shout out Axie for what he's done this season, though, with the cards that he's been dealt. I mean, his 3 and 4 pick were not in the game last night, and he still, it was a really good showing still. So it could have been a lot different had he had 3 and 4 in there. But just, again, it goes back to attendance, goes back to, the squads when they're getting picked. We've seen it on another squad as well where people aren't showing up, but, it's a hand or dealt, so can't really do anything about it now. But yeah, overall, I just think the better squad won. So, hats off to Bra for pulling out that win. They're going to have a semis game coming up for them next week. So, they're I bet they're high spirits right now going into that.
Yeah, for sure. And just one more touchback. You mentioned the flag room turret set up at A7. I agree. You just stand outside. Like, don't expose yourself to those turrets because their visible cone is only in that lip of the flag room. If you just stay like outside of it, once you've won the fight up top, you can throw all your nades in, get the MGs red, then rush in. But instead, like you said, I think those 2 cross-firing MG turrets may have done more player damage than the rest of the defense combined that game.
Yeah.
I mean, these poor OMs just kept sacrificing themselves straight to the middle and getting melted. I was like, oh no, not again.
And it sucks because a lot of the times the whole offense was up when they got there to that flag room, and they just literally got melted. And poor Axie couldn't, he didn't have enough time to take down the blocking sentry, never mind do any turret damage. So it kind of sucks that that's the way it went. But I think like looking back on the videos and maybe after they hear this podcast, they'll realize, oh, okay, if we're ever in that situation again, we won't do that.
Yeah. Just hold your advantage up there and throw nades. That's all you got to do. You don't have to be crazy risky just because there's turrets in the flag room. But again, like always, I do want to congratulate the winning team. They did what needed to be done despite any circumstances. So posting his squad, congrats. I think they locked up the 2 seed with that one following the next results we'll go through and everything. But yeah, congrats to you guys. So the last game of the night was, again, Cuck versus Bra. So we talked about Cuck before and the hand they've been dealt throughout the season. Between our last week's podcast and now, we have had a chance to talk with X5, found out more about his leadership style and everything, how he operates, and he's kind of in that unofficial leader spot under head squad, which is Cuck. So we know what he was hoping to do. Now, based on the outcome of this game, which Cuck did lose somewhat quickly, that's not what he had hoped for. But just to recap the game, Cuck went off with the decision this week to take A5, despite so many warnings we've made on this podcast. I've got to convince you all to stop taking that base until it gets modifications made to it, unless you're just trying to lose. But Bra opened up at F4 this time. The power offense at A5 very quickly overwhelmed the defense. And part of this is due to a decision Cuck made earlier in the week, where they were taking probably their strongest DMF Carrot Tank and moving him to offense. So you take Carrot Tank to offense and say, we're going to run kind of a rushing offense, which is, high floor, low ceiling. So you don't need to outfight these people just wrapping at nades toward the turrets. I'm fine with that strategy, but I disagreed the whole time in moving Carrot Tank because you left your defense with, I think it was Jaguar, Attempt, and Power as your DMs. And that is a low communication, low DMF experience team. At least with Carrot Tank, like despite the drama and everything, you can get some communication out of him. His fighting capability up close and whatnot. They were quickly punished for that decision. I don't know the exact number of the run it happened, but this was a fast game where everything went wrong all at once with those remaining 3Ms at home. Attempt took a weird looking death in the second room where you should never be by yourself. Power caught AC from the second room so far away you just can't catch that as a DMF. You got to have better movement than that. And from there, Jaguar gets the unlucky RT that kills him. At that point, like the game's over without a swing. Swing Tom doesn't get there in time. They just crush the base. There was an abort at F4 where Chucky kind of sorted out in his head the defending infuls. He's watching them. he's definitely looking at the timer as this happens, and he times it perfectly to get that clutch, like couple seconds remaining abort to begin. But after that, it's really just a strong push out by the winning team, bruh, in this case, who they took over the mid hallway just like we talked about A7 before. And once you eat up all that time, challenging the other team to get that hallway back, it's too late for them to make the push towards the flag room. So they hold this one. I did catch up with Posty after this, and he did let me know they were happy to get some of the new players in. They had a solid game plan, which allowed them to play and still make a big or impact on the offense. They were happy to say they've played 15 of the 16 players on their team. So the results and flexibility they've given everyone, and they're giving everyone something to believe in at this point instead of just sitting in spec. So I said it before, I'll say it again. Congratulations to the squad who's doing what they need to do. And it's really like my condolences at this point to the other squad who just couldn't overcome the attendance issues, to be honest. And I'll pass it back to Albert and we'll talk about this game a little bit with him. But following that, we'll go a little bit deeper on attendance.
Yeah, I feel like you pretty much nailed it when you mentioned that they moved Karatank to offense. They basically absolutely crippled their defense in a number of ways. First of all, by taking A5, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Unless that third infantry is so bad at D heavy that it doesn't near amount to his D inf, he should be taking A7. Like I believe that Jag could have played D heavy. I seen him do it in OVDs and mixes in A7, and it would have been a way better outcome than playing at A5. I could be wrong, but it's just my opinion. So like, first of all, that's how they crippled their defense, and then secondly, like you said, took Karatank, put him to offense. Their offense was great. I just don't think that, having Karatank on offense over, Attempt or someone would have made a huge difference to the point where, like, they would have been, unable to do any turret damage or whatnot. I think that if they had to just, put a little more attention into their defense, it could have worked out a lot better. With that being said, the defense was doing fine up until, a string of bad deaths that caused them to completely lose their defense and their turrets and their flag room. So maybe if a swing was called home a little bit earlier, I did get to watch it back a few times, and the swing wasn't called until there was just Plaps and GT left, and they were in a corner. There wasn't a ret to be seen. The infantries were basically on top of them. There was no way for them to recover from it, and then they called for a swing home. The offense was like fighting for, the flag room at F4. They just couldn't get home, right? So, maybe if they called it as soon as their infantry's died, okay, there's only two of us up, swing home right now, there would have been time to recover. But, it just didn't work out that way. So it's unfortunate. It was the best showing from Cuck that we've seen. It doesn't show it, like, numbers-wise for how long the game went, but I feel like they played the most in tune that they've played yet, especially on their offense. Like, they finally got it going. But, it just didn't work out on defense for them. I guess the swing should have been called. There's a number of things that could have happened differently, but they played as well as they could for the hand that they were dealt, especially with the attendance issues, but, it just didn't work out for them. Bra came out with the win again, so they were double wins on last night, week 3 Sunday, so, hats off to them. They played it perfect.
Yeah, and it's kind of a tale as old as time at this point when we talk about A5. Like, yeah, things are going great until they're not. And then once they're not, it's just so hard to recover that base. So there's a few games left next week. I hope none of you guys take A5. Because like no team is winning at A5. It's not happening until the boxes get fixed.
Don't take A5 unless you're playing against Pizza Rats.
Yeah, just take one of those weird cave bases that Chucky likes. Just go do that.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the sentiment. That was definitely the best offensive showing we've seen from Cuck. So I'm sure for those guys that played offense all season, it did feel good at the beginning to get something going, and that's what was happening. They had a strategy they'd worked on, practiced, discussed, theorized throughout the week, and it looked good. But, I would agree, again, taking that kind of strategy and then taking one of your higher skilled fighter imps off the defense to accommodate it, it just doesn't make sense on paper. Like, you take one of the lower skilled fighters and put them on that offense where you can't really do anything wrong.
Yeah.
You're walking forward, you're repping, you're throwing nades. You need fighters on defense, man, because if not, you get caught out of position, you take a bad death, and you're at the worst base in the game. You just lost your base. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's way harder. And I mean, it's a lot easier to swing one from D to O than it is to try to swing your O back to D, right? So,
yeah, for sure. But yeah, that was the recap of the matches from this week. I think up next, I want to rant a little bit about attendance, and I'll invite Albert to join me. But it's really just my last reminder on this. We've got championship week coming up and everything. I don't know if we'll have a debrief cast following that or not. But whatever the next league is, whether it's an OVD league, a draft league, a players league, a hybrid, an imaginary league, a hidden rating ELO league with things that are being tracked you don't even know about. If you're going to sign up to play in it and participate, just like follow through with that commitment. And if you can't do that, don't sign up because we're looking at the squads that got eliminated, and the two that are officially eliminated from playoffs today had these critical attendance problems. Like you look at their rosters, and we've been talking about their attendance since weeks 1. Like here we are getting close to week 4 and never got sorted out. And that's not the fault of the other people drafted. It's not the fault of the captains. There shouldn't be additional due diligence where for every player you're thinking about drafting, you need to personally reach out and ask if they're going to be available. I think there's talk about maybe the forum's going to be updated to say, for this weekend, are you explicitly available for this weekend? And that's fine. Like, sure, take those steps. But if you're signing up and you make that commitment, I just want you guys to show because I feel like it just sucks for the competition. It sucks for your squad mates. It sucks for everyone playing when they think they're getting one thing, but then the whole picture changes. Because as we know, like in the CTF environment, it's not like you're down a player. You're down multiple starting positions because of a player.
Yeah.
You rotate people down to squad leader, down to engineer, back up to heavy, just because one person's out. And I don't want to go into all the details because we've done that before, but that's where I'm at on it. I'm sick of seeing it. I really hate it for Axis and X5, who we've talked to. We know they're like cool competitors who want things to be great and everything. This one just sucks for them, and I hate it for them.
Yeah, I feel like we're beating a dead horse here, but it's stupid, man. You got these guys who are putting the time in to, number one, go through the list, and it might not be that much effort, but they're still spending hours looking through it, who they want to pick, drafting their list for, okay, if these guys are available on these picks, this is who I want, yada yada. And it's not like we're missing the 16th and 15th and 14th pick of a squad. It's like 3s and 4s that are not showing up. It's their first pick for engineer not showing up. It's like the important classes, all the important roles, and it's like you said, then you got 1 week this guy's playing SL, the next week he's playing engineer, the next week he's playing medic, the next week he's playing D heavy. It's just not a good look. It's not good for anyone. It's not good for like the morale of the team. You're sitting there and you're like, oh geez, our squad was real good week 1, and now we're missing 3 people from our starting lineup, and we're probably getting rolled. We got one guy sitting in spec for spec info, so that's not going to help us at all. So it just, overall, it hurts the entire team, and just not even not playing, but not showing, not contributing to spec info, not helping out in practices. Like, the entire thing, it hurts. So I won't say anything else about it. Kelby did say, though, that they are bringing up the, form where you can week 1, week 2, week 3, what's your availability? If you can make it or not, you check the box, which is good. But, it's not on the captains to do this. This is something that the players should not commit to if you cannot commit to it. Just, if you can't show up, don't put your name in to be drawn, because all you're doing is you're hurting the league. And, we all want this league to continue on, and you're just making it, putting a sour taste in people's mouths who show up each week. They practice each week. They're putting hours of their free time in, and then you just don't show up and you ruin it for them. So stop doing it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think that's the last we'll touch on it. So let's pivot over to remaining standings as we get close to ultimately championship weekend. I think most people who are playing or even watching this, they understand where we're at now. Pizza Rats 3-0, haven't lost yet. They have 1 match remaining prior to the official postseason starting next week. Raccoons at 3-1, a strong finish after they lost to Pizza Rats kind of in the middle of the season. They've won all the other games. Leadies with the strange unintentional 10-man thing last night, they dropped to 2-2. And then Scissors, technically the first squad that got eliminated from playoffs, they dropped 1-3 following their game last night. And Cuck, unable to pull it out, they dropped to 0-3. They've got one more game. Doesn't matter. They were the second team eliminated. I think we've done all the checking on this. Regardless of the outcome in that one remaining game, which we're about to talk about, I think these are fixed. No matter what happens, and Pizza Rats and Cuck, who still have that 4th game to play against each other, I don't think the outcome changes this at all, because Scissors owns a tiebreaker over Cuck, and Pizza Rats owns a tiebreaker over the Big Raccoons.
Yeah.
So put your 1s and 0s wherever you want for that meaningless game next week. I hope you guys show and play, but these are going to be your standings going into the playoffs, and those top 3 are going to be the seedings for playoff eligible teams.
Yeah, like you said, that it absolutely does not matter even if we play next week, Pizza Rats versus Cuck. I do want Cuck to show up, though. I want, just for the league, I've already heard that there's people that are not planning on showing up, which is, it's not good. It's not a good look on the league. It's not a good look for anybody. If you don't want to play it, I mean, don't play it. But, it does suck. I'm sure Pizza Rats wants to get that additional game in as well. Everyone signed up to play, so hopefully they can somehow pull it out. I know X5 wants to, because we did speak to him not long ago about it, And I mean, he's ready. He wants to, even if they can't make playoffs, he just wants to get that win. And I know like there's other people on that team who feel the same way. They might not be in the spirits that they would if they were fighting for a playoff spot, but still, I mean, show up, play it. It's the last game of the season for you guys. And then, might be OVD League, it might be Draft League 3. Just look forward to something else after that. So I hope you can bring it together. But like Kelby said, there's no difference what happens where the 1s and 0s go for that game. But nonetheless, it is a game that is left to play, so hopefully it does get to get played.
Yeah, for sure. So let's pivot back to the schedule, and I'll talk a little bit about what we can all look forward to next week. So, like we just talked about, Cuck and Pizza Rats have the last regular season game remaining. Going into this week, we actually had all these different scenarios theorized where this was a really meaningful game for like either squad. But due to the outcome of games this week, that all went to the wayside. And like we said, this is really a recreational game at this point. One last tune-up for Pizza Rats where they go into the playoffs. One farewell from Cuck as their season ends. I hope both squads can show, a strong 10. I did hear today, and we're recording this on Monday, that there's already some projected starters from Cuck who aren't going to be there for whatever reasons. That's disappointing like it has been all season, but can't really change that. Coming down into the postseason seeds, though, we showed you before, like the second seed in this case, that's Bruh, so they're going to have home field advantage against Leadies. These squads did play already. Everyone's played each other in this kind of format. This was one of my favorite matches from week 1, where Bro was losing the 5-man twice, actually, so they get to 10-man offense, but they keep winning on 10-man offense. Since then, I will say that Bro's offense has gotten better. I think they've had a few roster changes, trying different things. Flo came back. He's playing heavy now. Iron and Revenge look good out there together. Whoever else they plug in is fitting. So they're looking better 5v5. But on the other hand, I think Leadies is looking better in the 10v10 game. So I'm looking forward to this one. I love a good rematch. It's Saw versus Iron Part 2. Couldn't ask for a whole lot more than that. But the winner of this then becomes the away team against undefeated, at this point, Pizza Rats, or eventual 3-1 Pizza Rats. Either way, they stay as the 1 seed. So Pizza Rats will play in the championship game next week. They'll pick which side of the map, whether it's Titan or Collective, to take. That's probably when Albert's going to roll out the secret cave-based strategy. He's been metagaming all season long, so look out for that one. But yeah, I don't want to make a prediction on where any of those matches are going. I'm looking forward to the first one that matters, which is number 2 versus number 3. And whoever advances, I'm looking forward to a good match in the championship.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really looking forward to the Bruh versus Leady match. It was the match of the season, so I want these guys to like have another one of those. I know with a double OT it might not go 84 minutes, but it was action packed. Yeah,
those poor engineers,
dude. It looked rough, but it was action packed. You know what I mean? It was back and forth, like you said. It was 10 men. They got flags out a number of times, so like I think that's going to be a really good match, no matter who wins it. I mean, it could go either way in my opinion. Right now, you did bring up that Raccoon's offense is looking stellar right now. They are sound. They gave Pizza Rats a run for their money, and they had no problem yesterday in the 2 matches. I think that it's going to be a good test for, arguably the best defense in the league right now with Sav and Nas as infantries.
Yep.
And I believe they're going to have to take A7 or F4 because they have, one of the better heavies in the game as well with tacticals. So I think that's going to be a really good match. I hope that, it goes the distance. It sucks when it's like a 4 or 5 minute or 10 minute match. Like I want it to be a good one. So I'm really looking forward to that myself, and I bet everyone else is, and you are as well.
Yep. And I kind of mentioned earlier, like Albert and I don't really know what's to come following this league. I don't know if there's going to be one more cast from us kind of wrapping up the league, or if we'll just kind of let it go. So if you don't hear from us again, thanks for listening on this content for the second draft league. I had a little bit of fun talking to Albert, not a whole lot, but week to week previewing matches, talking about strategies and what teams may or may not do. So thanks for tuning in. It was fun for us. Hopefully some of the help we provide to other teams and players throughout the league was beneficial. And again, good luck on the playoffs.
Yeah, I just want to circle back to that one more time. If you guys do need help, please reach out to someone. It doesn't have to be me. It could be Kelby, Hirth, or Desi. I will tell you that I've been friends with these guys longer than I'd like to admit, and none of these guys fucking told me that there was a blink in our base in that game, all right? So they're not going to double-cross you or fucking hurt you. They'll only help you. Reach out to them. They're there to help. It's a tool that you should be using if you're not using it. If you feel like you need the extra help, these guys are there to help you. They won't give out your super secret strats or anything. But with that, guys, like Kelby said, we got one more podcast coming at least. I don't know if we're going to have anything after that. We will be back again Friday with another guest, but I don't know if we're going to close out after the playoffs. we will play that one by ear. So if we don't, like he said, thank you guys very much for listening. We appreciate it. If there's something else that happens in the league, we'll probably do this again down the road. But yeah, it was nice talking to Kelby. And Kelby, thank you very much for doing this with me. I appreciate it. It wouldn't be near as good without you. I can say that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that part. It'd be terrible with Albert. So you're all welcome for me being here.
Well, with that, guys, we're going to leave it there. It's not as long as it usually is, but thank you guys again for listening, and we'll see you on Friday.